You know what else works in mysterious ways? Almost all the shit that works. Right? Seriously, if you get any more mechanically complex than like, I don't know, a can opener or so, I'm fucking baffled. Hell, I'm not even 100% sure I've got my head all the way around zippers. And I live in a world where almost everything is significantly more complicated than a zipper. That being said, I can say for absolute certain when a zipper isn't working. Right? I mean, I know we don't spend a lot of time on the mysterious ways apologetic on this show because it's basically too dumb to debunk. Right? I mean, the counter argument is literally, nuh-uh. I'm pretty sure that would actually win you the point in a formal debate against this one. So cataloging all the ways it fails to rise to the level of correct would damn near be like redlining the anachronisms in a Flintstones script. And sure, it's probably the most commonly employed apologetic in the Christian world, but it's almost never used as an actual argument. Right, like most of the time it's used as a get-out-of-jail-free card by Christians who just accidentally disprove the basic tenets of their faith by observing the known universe. You know, like two Christians would be talking about a friend of theirs that's had it really rough for a really long time, and then just like another tragedy fell onto their already overburdened shoulders. And one of those people will accidentally point out that they believe a being exists that could not only prevent this, but had to actually intentionally do it for it to happen. And then they stare at each other for a second in a cold sweat until somebody remembers to say, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Right? Like if an atheist even hears it, it's usually going to be like either at the end of an argument or the part the religious person who said it was hoping was going to be the end of the argument. Is the apologetics version of that long first syllable anyway that you use when you don't want to talk to that person on the phone anymore. Any mysterious way. I mean, that's the actual construction of the argument, right? The argument here, to the extent that there really is an argument, is, well, I guess we're all too dumb to understand this, which, to be fair, is usually at least half right. But pointing out how mysterious God is can only really serve to disqualify everyone in the room from the conversation. None of us are smart enough to comment on the nature or intention of God. Is how I know he's benevolent and loves me and has my best interests in mind and exists. Now, I don't think anybody who ever used this term actually bought it, right? Architects work in mysterious ways too, but if they asked a guy who just built their house why that door doesn't go anywhere, pointing that out probably won't end the conversation. Generally speaking, there is no relationship between the mysteriousness of one's ways and the need for your actions to make sense. Right? Like if there's a severed finger in my salad, yes, the chef works in mysterious ways. That much is obvious. It's a prerequisite to this thought experiment. But pointing that out isn't going to earn any extra stars on the Travelocity review. And therein lies the problem, right? Because as hard as it is, we can all probably come up with some explanation for why a finger might be in my salad that wouldn't require malice. We could even come up with a way that it actually was to my benefit, right? A mute, immobile guy realized at the last second that salad was poisoned, so he chops off his own finger and drops it in the salad as the waiter passes. A bit of an extreme solution, granted, but now the guy who put the finger in my salad is actually helping me, just like when God gave that lady cancer right after she started to recover from the deaths of her 3 children in that car accident. We don't know all the circumstances, right? We can't say for sure that God wasn't saving her from some worse fate. Except that we can, because again, the rebuttal here really is nuh-uh. I mean, first of all, the 9-fingered salad dude wasn't omnipotent, right? He was immobile and mute. Omnipotent guy can't have a limited range of choices. That's because he's omnipotent guy, right? But even if he wasn't, the argument would still fail. Even if you put a bunch of restrictions on God, you still have to accept that some situation exists where the best possible option is killing 3 kids and giving a lady cancer. Right, keeping in mind that this assumes a previous situation where the best possible option was to invent cancer and car accidents. And as impossible as this is to believe, theists seem happy to make themselves believe it anyway. And that's what makes it worth talking about. See, usually when we do counter-apologetics on this show, it's because some of their arguments can be tricky the first time you hear them, right? They rely on unfounded assumptions about biology, physics, philosophy, whatever, and to really refute them, you need to know whatever obscure section of science they fucked up to get there. So we figure, we'll help you out with that. We can familiarize you with the arguments and the common rebuttals, and so when you encounter them, you'll be prepared. But seeing as how we've already established that you got the earbuds into the right orifices to get this far, you obviously don't need any help repudiating the desperate wisp of an argument argument we're talking about here. But it's still worth reminding ourselves what the logical conclusions of it are. To accept that an omnipotent, benevolent God is in control of the universe, you have to accept that there's some possible exculpatory datum that could make it okay to invent cancer. And if this was just some weird nuance way down the logic chain of the argument that Christians never really noticed because they didn't get that far, it probably wouldn't be worth spending an entire diatribe on. But when you see how cancerous they're willing to be to get what they think is right, it's worth reflecting on what that belief does to your psyche.